Harvey Hahn. I'm a cardiologist of Kettering Health Network. I'm going to be talking about how to set goals and actually reach them. And one of the big questions is, what is your why? Why is probably the most important question in medicine, but probably in life as well. One of the big tragedies in life is said in this quote: the tragedy in life doesn't lie in not reaching your goal. The tragedy lies in having no goal to reach. At that point, you're kind of aimless. And this talk's really going to be talking about how to really focus on your goal and where you want to wind up. So let's do a couple of thought experiments here. The first one is, what would you try to do if you knew you could not fail? What kind of really big goals would you shoot for? What kind of moonshots would you even envision yourself doing? Think about that for a little bit. Now, to bookend this, I want you to also think, what would you try to do if you knew you would fail? What is so important to you? What is so critical to your self-being that you're going to have to try to do that even if the odds are really stacked against you? And those are the things that people typically feel like God, family, friends. These are things that you're going to push really hard on even if you know the odds are really against you. The other thing to think about is if you don't try, you've already failed, and that's called a self-fulfilling prophecy. Suppose you want to get that job promotion, but you don't go for it, you already failed. Or you're scared to ask out that cute girl and you don't do it, you've already failed. You have to go for it sometimes. Now, another big thing to think about is internal versus external motivation. Now, a lot of what we do is kind of what we call outcomes-based, and it's really external to us. Like, I want to get a six-pack, I want to look good for my class reunion, I want to get in bikini shape, I want to have a nice car, nice house. Those things are motivators, but they're pretty weak motivators, and because they're all external. What really works better is what I call internal motivation. And these are things like, who am I? What is my identity? What makes me me? These are things that really drive us when the going gets hard. And that's the way you want to go. So back to the question, what is your why? So we're in Dayton, so there's an obviously great local example. Everyone knows who these guys are. It's the Wright brothers. Does anyone know who this person is? Probably not. All right, it's Samuel and Langley. And these were the two contemporary competitors to be the first people to actually fly an airplane. Now, the Wright brothers, as you well know, they owned a bicycle shop, and in all their spare time, they were trying to build an airplane to fly. They didn't like bicycles. That was how they made money to support what they really wanted to do, which was to fly. Langley, by comparison, he actually had in 2020 dollars was about a $1 million grant back in the day. And he got that from the government because the U.S. military was obviously very interested in using airplanes for warfare. Now, what did Langley do after the Wright brothers first achieved manned flight? He quit. For him, flying was not that important. He wanted to be the first person to fly. He wanted to be famous. He wanted to probably make money off of this. But flying in and of itself was not that important. The Wright brothers, in comparison, no one in their group had a college education. All they did was live, breathe, and think about flying. That was their whole being. That's why they made it first. Here's another incredible example. Eddie Lacy, for you football fans, he was a great running back at the University of Alabama, won a national title with them, got drafted to the Green Bay Packers, played in the NFL. Now, he had only about a 5-year career, and one of the big problems is he kept gaining weight. So this is a picture of him near the end of his career. So they actually put stipulations in his contract that if he kept losing weight, they'd pay him more money. It got to the point where he would earn an extra $300,000 a year on top of his regular salary if he would meet certain weight goals. But he couldn't meet them, and eventually he quit football. Now, I'm not using this as an example to make fun of him or say that he was a failure in the NFL. He made a lot of money. He played in the NFL. He did great. But being an NFL running back was not internally important to him as probably having fun and eating with his friends. What is success? Everyone defines it differently. Anyone know who this guy is? His name is John Benton. He's a personal trainer to supermodels. And what the models do is they'll pay him $20,000 and they'll go down to Dallas and they'll work out with him. And the goals are typically crazy. They want to lose like 1 inch off their waist and hips and 1/2 inch off their thighs. That's like they're actually the stated goal. So here's one of the models here, very skinny, in good shape. After working with Benton, she looks a little bit better, more skinny. When I talked to my wife about this, I go, this is insane. They're paying $20,000 to just get a little bit skinnier. And she's like, no, it makes total sense. The goal isn't to get skinnier. The goal is to look a little bit better, get a contract, and become eventually a supermodel. That's the long-term goal. So $20,000 is not a big deal if that's your long-term goal here. Another way to look at your why and going forward and how to reach your goals is to think about what's the meaning in your life here. And one way that was brought up is by David Brooks, who has a great 5-minute TED Talk that I recommend that you go check out. And he says, should you live your life for your resume or for your eulogy? And he has two types of people. First, he says Adam 1 is the worldly man. And that's the person who's like going for the most money, biggest job, biggest house, biggest car, and that's his measure of success, and that's his why. 2 is the spiritual man, the person who has the most relationships, the most meaning in his life, who's impacted the most people. And you have to ask yourself, do I want to have a big resume, a big list of accomplishments, or do I want to have a lot of people show up to my funeral because I've made a huge impact on my local community or maybe even the world? And that kind of thought process will help you decide how you want to live your life. Okay. And this is really important. Your stated goal has to align with priorities, or you get what we call cognitive dissonance, where your brain knows that you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, and it's very unsettling. Without real meaning in your life, your life is going to be kind of empty. Now, one way to kind of structure how to look and find your meaning is do this Japanese technique. It's called ikigai. And some people think that's like a bad, creepy old boyfriend, but it actually means reason for being. If you look at these 4 circles that overlap like a Venn diagram, the top one is what do you love? What do you love to do? The one on the left is what are you good at? The bottom thing is what can you get paid for? We all got to pay the bills, eat. But finally, the last circle is what does the world need? What service, what can you provide for the world? Now, if you're lucky and you can get all 4 things to overlap, then you have found your reason for being, you found your purpose. And I actually recommend people print this out and actually go through this and actually think about this and see what kind of job, career would actually allow you to overlap all 4 areas. Purpose is really important. They've actually studied this, and what they found is people that have no sense of purpose, no reason to get out of bed, they actually die faster. And you can see that by the dotted red line on this graph. People that have a sense of purpose, or even if you're uncertain, they do much better, live longer than people that have no sense of purpose. And there's a great study that talks about this. So there was a study where they paid people to come out and dig a ditch. At the end of the day, they told the people to put all the dirt and refill the ditch they just dug out. Totally meaningless work. And at the end of the day, they said, why don't you guys all come back tomorrow, we'll pay you double. And then they asked, what are we going to do tomorrow? And the foreman said the exact same thing. How many people do you think showed up the next day? It was 0. People want to have meaning in what they do. They have to have purpose. If you're just making money doing something repetitive that has no meaning, it's not fulfilling. You won't do it for very long. Now, mindset's really, really important. This is a great quote. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. This goes back to the self-fulfilling prophecy. Positive attitude makes a big difference. Negative attitude, you're going to have the negative result. There's a bunch of numbers here. Anyone know what 359.4 means? May 6, 1954? I'm a runner, so it's a big deal for me. But this is when Roger Bannister, Sir Roger Bannister, broke the 4-minute barrier in the mile. Back then, it was thought to be impossible. Actually, doctors like me said that if someone actually did it, their heart would probably explode and they'd die. Anyway, he finally did it. What happened about 3 months later? His chief competitor went sub-4. Then they raced each other another 3 months later, and they both went sub-4, and Bannister reclaimed the world record. Now I think there's been over 300 people that have gone sub-4. So the whole point of this story is that once you believe you can do it, once people have proven that it is possible, then a bunch of people can do it. Things that were once thought to be impossible are now possible. One other exercise that's really good to do to kind of help you think about how you want to live your life, how you want to set your goals, is called the Dickens process. And this talks about opportunity cost, and this is a Tony Robbins exercise at his seminars. And he asked people, what are your beliefs costing you? So everyone has certain beliefs about themselves, and they have positive and negative impacts. And we'll go through a couple examples here. What have your beliefs cost you in the past? Suppose you think you're not that smart. Did you decide, I'm not going to study that hard, so you got bad grades, didn't go to the best college, didn't get the best job? Or you thought, hey, you know what, I'm not that good looking, I'm not going to be able to date anybody, so you get more socially reclusive, become more isolated, actually can get depressed. There's things that you have done in the past because of beliefs that have made a huge impact in your life. The next exercise is think, what have your beliefs cost you right now? Suppose there's a job position that's posted, it's a promotion, but you go, I'm not that smart, I'm not that well liked, I'm not leadership material, so you don't go for it. You've automatically eliminated any chance of getting that job because you're not going for it. Same thing, if there's a person you really like, you want to ask them out for a date, but you're scared to do it, and you think, oh, she's not going to say yes, or he's not going to say yes, then you've actually eliminated that possibility. You are hurting yourself by your belief system. Most importantly, though, going forward right now, what are your beliefs going to cost you in the future? What opportunities are you going to eliminate for yourself by having negative beliefs in yourself? If you think you can't do it, it's not going to happen. You have to be able to go out there, have to believe you can do it. Now also, focusing on your goals is really, really important as well. This is a great example from James Clear in Atomic Habits. And the idea is if you fly from San Francisco to Washington, D.C., that's easy. But if you're 1 degree off starting in San Francisco, by the time you reach the East Coast, you actually wind up in New York. You travel a long distance, you made progress, but you haven't reached your goal. Defining your goal and focusing on it going forward really helps you reach the actual goal you want. Now, just to kind of end up here, way to set goals is what we call the SMART system. And most people have heard about this, but you want to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and also timely. Goals have to be specific. You don't want to say stuff like, I want to lose weight. You want to say, I want to lose 20 pounds. You don't want to say, I want to become a runner. You want to say, I'm going to run 2 times a week, maybe then 3, and advance up. Or better yet, say, I want to do a 5K. Have some very specific, measurable goal, and that goes to the M. If you don't have anything that's very specific, you can't figure out, have I made progress, 50% progress, or any progress? That's why a measurable goal is important. The next two are actually related, achievable and realistic. You can't have a crazy goal like I want to go from couch potato to running a marathon. The realistic goal is couch potato to 5K. And then you set another goal, 10K, half marathon, marathon. And many people have done that. It's totally doable. The last thing is timely. You have to put a start date, and you have to have times where you check in and say, what kind of progress have I made on my goals? If you don't do that, it's more kind of like a wish. It's not really a goal. I want to end on this quote. The reason that most people never reach their goals is that they don't define them or ever seriously consider them as believable or achievable. Winners can tell you where they're going, what they plan to do along the way, and who will be sharing the adventure with them. And this is what I hope for all of us going forward as you set your goals, figure out your why, and then achieve your goals. A future episode will talk specifically about habits and how they can help you reach your goals.